Gang, this is Michael, my real estate dojo, and I had multiple people and students ask me, hey Mike, how can I protect my deal when I'm trying to wholesale a deal so a shady investor won't take it over when I send it out to my buyers list or investors list, or the seller won't go around my back? Because if you're doing a double closing or if you're doing an assignment, then there's a good chance that some of the cash investors that you're talking to may want to go around your back. And the way that I protect my deals is that you got to go to one or two extra steps when you're doing the transaction. And sometimes I don't even take the one or two extra steps because the report that I build with the seller, I know that they're not going to stab me in the back, or there's not enough equity because it takes a little bit more money, not much more money, but more sweat equity, more driving around, which sometimes it's not worth it for me. But if I'm dealing with a seller, a significant amount of equity in there, then I am going to protect my interest. And so here's the way I do it, guys. So there's basically two extra steps you have to take. Whenever you negotiate with a seller and you're going to sign the contract, you need to actually get the contract notarized. Okay. So step number one is you have to get the contract notarized. Now, if you don't have a contract or a subject to contract, I have one that you can download. It's going to cost you a couple of pennies, but it's going to be a lot less expensive than going to an attorney. So you might want to check that out. So step number one is when you get the contract, you have to get it notarized. That's going to cost a lot of money. What you could do, or what I do, is I call a mobile notary. They come in, it costs me like 75 to 125, 150 bucks for them to notarize it. Or if you want to do it for free, is you should just have the seller get in their car, you get in your car, you guys drive down to, let's say, a bank that does notary for free. So that's the option too, if you want to do it for free. But for me, I just call a mobile notary. They show up at the seller's house. I'm going to sign the paperwork, I get it notarized. Now, your contract needs to have a notary part at the bottom for the notary to sign. So it's not like the notary's going to show up and they're going to put the text in there for you. So your contract needs to have that ready to go. Now, once I get it notarized, I'll let the seller know, hey, once you sign this, there's no backing out of this thing because I'm going to buy this, I'm going to put money into the game, I just paid a notary, I'm going to do title search, it's going to cost me money, are you sure you want to do this? And if they say yes, and I ask them 5 more times, 3 more times, make sure this is something they want to do. Once they say they want to do this, then I go ahead and have it notarized, we sign off on it, and the next step is that I'll take it to the county clerk's office, pay a couple $100, I think it's like 110 bucks, I don't really remember, because this depends on the length of the paper that you get you file. The more paper it is, the more you gotta pay, guys. So I'll go to the county clerk's office and I'll go ahead and give them the contract and let them put it in the public records office. And what that does is that it clouds the title, and which means that if the seller tries to sell the property to another investor, when that investor goes to the title company, that title company is not going to provide them a title policy because there's a cloud on the title. Okay? Now, a cloud is not a lien. Okay? Let me repeat that one more time. A cloud is not a lien. Okay? But all liens are clouds. So let me say that again. All liens, if it's a mechanical lien, if it's an IRS lien, if it's a mortgage lien, whatever the type of lien it may be, it's always a cloud on the chain, okay, on the title chain. However, not all clouds are liens. For example, this thing that I just showed you what to do, where you take the contract, you go file it at the county clerk's office, it's a cloud on the title. However, it's not a lien. Okay, so what happens is, so let's say you have a shady seller or a shady investor that goes around your back. Once you send them an email saying, hey, look at this property, and they try to negotiate something with the seller, offering them more money, whatever the story may be, they go to the closing, seller shows up, that shady investor shows up, and the title company is not going to provide title insurance on the deal, which means that the deal is not going to close, because if the investor is using hard money or is using a bank loan, okay, because both of those want to make sure the buyer buys title policy. Okay, so at that time, what's going to happen is that the title company is going to call you. That's why on the contract you can have your information. They're going to call you, and that's where you can start negotiating something. Hey, you pay me $2,000, or you pay me $3,000, or for my liquidated damages. And at that time, the seller or the shady investor will have to do that if they want you to basically release that cloud. Okay, because you have an interest, a vested interest in this property, and you spend money on it. For example, you did notary, you did, whatever you've done, if you've done title searches, so you put up money and you had the deal first. So this shady individual tried to go behind your back, and now you're protecting your interest by clouding up the title. And if the buyer or the seller wants to uncloud the title, then what they need to do is pay you, right? Some money, $2,000, $3,000, whatever you're willing to let it go for. So if you were going to wholesale it, you were going to make $5,000. Maybe now you could let it go for $2,000 or $3,000 because you didn't have to do anything, and you just sit back. So that might be a worth for you. Or you might want to ask for the full amount, okay? Which might not be a bad idea, okay? So now, guys, I just showed you 2 steps you have to do to protect your interest when you're wholesaling the property to an investor or a cash buyer or a retail buyer, okay? You could also do that even if you are not wholesaling, you're going to be a buy and hold guy like me. You can still do that so the seller doesn't change his mind down the line. Because if you do that and then the seller says, you spend, let's say, a couple of grand doing title searches or putting, have your contractors come out there, whatever. So you have money up in there, you invested, the seller said they're going to sell you the property, it didn't perform, so no problem. I filed this, you don't want to sell it now, no problem. 5 years down the line, 6 years down the line, when they're going to go sell, the same thing's going to happen. That seller's not going to be able to sell the property unless, they clear up that cloud. I'm not going to allow the cloud to be cleared unless I get paid for the money that I invested into the deal. So either way, I'm going to get some money down the line, okay? Now, one way that this theory will not work is that if that investor buyer decides to buy the property without title policy, okay? So that investor buyer, if he buys it without title policy, then, at that time he doesn't have to pay you, okay? Because he's doing a subject to. Now, you could buy a property subject to and get title policy, or you could do property subject to without title policy. If he does the title policy, then they're gonna have to call you. If he does it without title policy, then they're not gonna call you. But the problem is gonna happen again down the line when that investor now tries to sell it to a retail buyer. Once the new title company looks to the history of the chain of the title, you're going to see there was a cloud, and it's going to come back to you. Or, there's a possibility that's going to come back to you. So you're in a better positioning. Now, guys, there's nothing 100% in life. So if you're wanting something that's 100%, then, death is 100% shit that I do. But these things are going to, they're like the seatbelt of a car. They're going to decrease your chances of getting fucked up. But they're not going to eliminate you being fucked up. Does that make sense? So the strategy, I would say 90%, 98%. But there's always ways to go underneath them, especially if the investor is very seasoned. But at the end of the day, I would cut off any motherfucker that try to screw me, and you cannot do business with them because, it's a small world and you don't want to do business with people that are shady. I don't run business shady. I don't want to do business with shady people. I don't want anybody shady around me, okay? So, and I stand by that. And so, when you have that kind of values, then, you're not going to sweat it because you're doing business correctly. There's a bunch of other people that want to do business with you, so you're just happy that you caught the rat and you squished it, and now you're moving on. You're not going to deal with this fucking rat anymore. All right, guys, I showed you how to protect your deal. One thing I did leave out is that whenever you file your contract at the county clerk's office, the whole public, everybody's gonna know what you negotiated, what. So if you did a subject to loan, And you have my contract. It's going to show on there the seller's loan is this much. This is their interest rate. So you're basically putting on the whole world what deal you negotiated. Okay. Now, even if there's not a shady person involved in the deal, let's say I'm going to buy it from seller, and then I go file my contract at the county clerk's office. A couple of months later, a couple of months or years later, I try to sell it to an investor or to a retail buyer. It doesn't matter. If they were smart, you go on the county clerk's office and see how much I bought the property for, because I basically spell it out on my contract how much it is, what's the loan balance, many more years. So the way to protect yourself, to not to let the whole world know what you actually got the contract for, what the deal for, is to use a memorandum. And guys, and basically a memorandum is just like a copy of the contract without all the details of the terms. It just says the seller, is going to just sell you the property and you notarize it. Now guys, if you want to download my memorandum, the one that I actually use to do this, then just post it below on the YouTube channel, comments, and I'll get that information to you. It's just going to cost a couple of pennies, but it's just like a one and a half, if not one page. I'll give it to you, and then once you're there at the seller's home, not only do you need to fill out the contract, but you also need to fill out the memorandum. And then instead of going to the county clerk's office and filing the contract, you're going to actually file the memorandum. And what that does is lets the world know you have the vested interest in the property. However, it does not disclose to the whole world what was the negotiation terms, what was the interest rate, how much are you buying the property for, which basically lowers your ability to negotiate later with another seller because they get to see. It's kind of like playing poker open hand. Well, you show everybody your hand. It's kind of a harder to win that way. Okay. So gang, I give you some good information. I give you some information how to protect yourself. I give you some information how to protect yourself without letting the whole world know what your plan is. And if you need any questions, comments, please leave it below, and I'll be happy to answer those questions or comments for you. If you like these videos, please like, please share, and please leave a comment. And if you really, really like what I'm showing you, please support me. I have a seller script out there. I have buyer flyers out there. I have seller flyers out there. These are all professionally made by copywriters. Guys, I have my subject to contract out there. Okay, I got this memorandum. I got the Dojo Club for $500. You have access to me. You get 3 hours free. So if you really enjoy what I'm giving you and you're actually going out there implementing and you're seeing results, hey, please support me. Okay, I really appreciate you guys watching. Go out there and hustle and bustle. Have a great day.